Hey, everybody, this is the Wolf Driver. I am coming to you live from the home base. And don't usually get a chance to talk to you in this forum, so it's a nice opportunity for me to take questions, take your comments, concerns, whatever. Usually you see me out in the field running the dogs, what they're doing behind me. I'm in a setup where I might appear a little dim to you, and I apologize. Just trying to allow you to see the dogs, what we do, the activities, especially for those of you that aren't familiar with the Wolf Driver and all the different activities we do. But I wanted to touch on today, we had a spa day, and I call it a spa day because actually a groomer comes to the house and she grooms all the dogs in a self-contained van. So the van has a tub, dryers, and of course all the equipment she needs to groom them. There's a lot involved with grooming, especially the Wolfpack, my type of husky, because it's called a woolly husky. It's a long-haired husky. So it is an anomaly, for lack of a better description, which means it's more of like, it's not a common occurrence in the wild. Reason being because the long hair is actually a hindrance to them, because other problems can come from it when they're in the wild. So being domesticated and being in a house setting is perfectly fine for them. But we do need to be cognizant, those of us that have woolly or long-haired huskies, because of the problems that can occur. Again, sometimes shorter hair huskies are considered waterproof coats, where the short hair can actually, hey Emily, how are you? Glad to see you back. Welcome to the party. The party's at home now, a little more subdued, a little chilled. But as I was saying, the shorter hair huskies, it's almost a waterproof coat where water and other elements have a tough time impeding it. Where with a longer hair coat, water, especially as you get into different conditions where it's cold outside, you have precipitation, snow, ice, rain, whatever, can start to get the hair actually wet and then freeze up on the dogs, depending on the conditions again. So long hair is a little bit more of a challenge, and it requires extra special attention. So I get the dogs groomed once a month. Again, the groomer comes to the house in her self-contained van. I've been dealing with a wonderful person, of course, local to the area, and she's just fantastic. A lot of care for the dogs, very familiar with their coat, and very familiar with each one of them, their personalities. So that's important as well. Again, we don't need so much to usually trim the nails, because the nails are pretty much self-maintained by the amount of work we're always doing, we're engaged in, especially when we're running on harder surfaces. There's sometimes when we're just running on grass, as you'll see behind me, as the movies are playing on of all what we do, that when we run on grass for a while, sometimes even the nails will be, they'll be allowed to grow a little longer, so they will occasionally need to be clipped. As well as, I don't know if you're familiar with the dew claw, but the dew claw, if I take my hand, it's the one up towards or above what our thumb would be in that area, going part of the way up the paw, and that's used in the wild, if the dogs were wild dogs, not domesticated, whatever, to help them with their prey, help them take their prey apart, for lack of a less descriptive term. But so the dew claw, because they're domesticated dogs today, some people even have them removed because they serve no purpose really, and they can become a hindrance if they're not maintained, because the dog can scratch itself as it moves its paw around its body. So I've never had my dog's dew claws removed, any dogs I've ever had, but we just keep them trimmed as well. So there's a lot of other stuff that goes on. I'm going to look at my list. I know some people will groom their huskies or groom their dogs on their own, which is perfectly fine and great. But again, with the long-haired husky, and with being a northern breed, it has that double coat. And what that double coat means is that they shed twice a year, basically. And when they shed, it's a lot of hair. So by us grooming them monthly, it keeps that hair down. If you, in the past, before I had a groomer come here when I was doing the dogs myself. I wasn't as timely, so I didn't do it quite every month. And even with other Huskies that weren't long hair, you would see down the driveway, it looked like, because almost all my Huskies except for Zorro have been white, so it looked like cotton down the driveway. It was kind of funny, but kind of a nuisance in some ways as well. Actually, birds will use that hair to build their nest with, etc. So real quickly, when I see something cool in the video behind me, those are my original two Huskies. Those are Czar and Hudson, who have long gone to over Rainbow Bridge. They taught me everything I know. They were wonderful Huskies, and you could see me back then. That's going back probably 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, where I would be biking them. Similarly to what I do today, but really the same attachment I'm using and the same principle, but we've got more sophisticated, more customized, and able to do a lot more because of the technology and because of my knowledge and what we're able to fabricate and add to and build, customize, modify this equipment I use. Anytime you have a question here, please go right ahead and just chime on in, jump in. The party's open. I can talk about anything, but I am trying to touch on the spa day today. Some people prefer to shave their Huskies. I personally don't. I feel, I'm talking in the warmer months when people would do it, I feel like that can be a little bit like they feel like they're a little naked. It might, to me, it could cause some personality issues, as well as when after they blow their coat in the warmer temperatures as we get in the spring and summer, depending on where you're located in the world, the top coat, because the bottom coat will be gone, or the double coat, the undercoat will be gone when they shed it, will act as a protectant against the sun and, again, other elements. So I feel it's kind of important through my research and my experience to not shave the Husky, to get rid of course, the undercoat. It'll get rid of itself, but you brushing it out, or a groomer, or whoever the case may be, will be able to handle it as well. And it's very important to do that. And I would recommend against shaving. You might want to ask your veterinarian if that's something that you're interested in. But I've never done it. I've seen other Huskies with it, and in my personal opinion, I would not recommend it. So again, chime in with any questions you may have. It's pretty cool how the groomer comes to the house. I'm sure you've probably heard of it. And by the way, the video behind me, we're free ranging. If you have any questions, something comes on the screen and you're curious about, by all means, just shoot me a comment in the Facebook section, in the comment section. But like I said, the groomer comes to the house in a fully stocked, equipped van that has all the amenities and everything she needs to do and all the tools, etc. And a funny story, we used to, I still have done it, saved a lot of the hair that we take off the dogs. I know some people might find this kind of strange, but I plan on someday making some of my own clothes out of the hair, so it's used again, used in the right way. And there's people that specialize this. A lot of them do it with cats. And when they groom them, when they brush them, whatever, they'll make different, whether it's mittens or gloves or a hat or even a sweater. So what we do is we would clean the hair after they're groomed, so it's clean, and it can be woven with other hair, wool, whatever, to help the density if need be, depending on what you're making and what you're trying to achieve. So that's pretty interesting. And I also find when we groom the dogs, those of you that groom them on their own, or even if you have a groomer, using warmer water tends to be, not hot, but warm water tends to help the dogs deal with it. Even on a warm day where you might feel like, hey, that a cool water will feel good to them. Usually in a bathing or a grooming type setting, it's nice to have it lukewarm, I would say, because it's more comfortable to them. We've found over the years that when the water's colder, they don't like it as much. So just a little bit of a pointer there for you. And also, I consider grooming an event. So we do our adventures. If we go out free ranging for the day, that's an event. If we go and take the bike and we do what I call fur wheeling, where we're doing mushing, where you see the dogs on the bike, that's an event. So whatever we do, grooming's kind of an event because it's fairly stressful on the dogs. I mean, again, we've been doing it every month pretty much since they've been puppies. So they definitely get used to it, but it's still somewhat strenuous to them. It's not something that would occur out in the wild. So their instincts, it's not built in them to readily deal with it or know how to handle it. So it's a little awkward. So the stress that can be related to it is understandable. There's other ways to deal with it, such as music can be played in the background. Hey, Mallory, I hope I said your name right. Welcome to the Wolf Driver Party. Glad to see you. Okay, I'm sorry. She mentioned to make it closed caption, and right now I don't have the capabilities of doing that. This is broadcast through Facebook, so I will research it and try to do that. That's an excellent suggestion, and I will look into that and make suggestions to Facebook as well, and you can too. But thank you so much for coming by, and I hope we can give you enough of a visual. I have some products with me that I'll share, and hopefully you can take something from that. In any case, this is an event for them, and you can reduce some of the stress by playing music, the warm water, as I said. If someone's grooming them for you, accompany the groomer through some of the time or in the beginning to soothe the dogs. And also the groomer, if you can talk to them, maybe a light massage as they get it, and always praising the dog. That helps a lot too. I've made some meditation music through my Wolf Driver project, and you can go to alldogzen.com, and there's meditation, and there's actually a couple skits on there, or a couple guided meditations that tell the dog and explain to you how to soothe your dog. Now, I'm not saying that dogs understand words, because they're more geared to understand the tone of your voice. So that through the guided meditation process, they're probably not processing all of the words that are being said, but they're understanding the tones and the calmness, so it can help them through different situations. Pretty interesting, and I've got a write-up on it, and again, the music and all the information is available on alldogzen.com. I know people have asked me about flea and tick, what I use, so I'm going to bring this to you. This is something called, someone asked me the other day when we were free-ranging and I was doing the live broadcast about the product they use. It is called Bravecto, and I'm getting nothing from the company. But this product actually will work for 3 months, so pretty impressive. It is given orally, so it's like a tablet, if you will, or a chewable that they readily take. And seems to be wonderful. I've used it, I think this is my 3rd dose, probably for the past 9 months. True, winter months, you're less likely to have fleas or ticks, but in the way our weather's been all over the world, you never know when the ticks are going to show up, even off season. So I've had excellent luck with it. Before that, I used a product called, I believe, Nex, which was an offshoot of Frontline, but it was, again, given orally. It was once a month, a chewable tablet, and that was wonderful too. Before that, I used Frontline consistently, and again, I treat them year-round because we're out so much doing adventures that I've run into ticks. Never had a problem with fleas, but I've run into ticks all year long at different times when you least expect it. Pretty crazy, for lack of a better term. Using the Frontline, where you put on the lotion or put on the potion around their shoulder blade area. That was good. I had good success, but it started to, I don't know if it was the ticks started to adapt to it or become immune to it, but at least in my area, it wasn't as effective. That's when I was considering another product, and my veterinarian had said, I have a good relationship, as you can imagine. My veterinarian, he said, hey, let's try this chewable called Nex, and I think that might be good, and we did that. And Bravecto came out on the market, and it's been wonderful. So just letting you know that. And that is the flea and tick. I also give a monthly heartworm. I've used HeartGuard before, it's called, and I use right now Interceptor, and they treat for some other, each of them, I believe, treat for other possible parasites or nuisance or problems that the dogs can get. I've never had a problem with that. Again, I keep them on a steady diet of that as well. So there are natural remedies that people like to use because sometimes using all these products, and we have to vaccinate our dogs, of course, but as the dogs get older and vaccinations, you give them over and over, at a certain point, it's some of the vaccines, from my understanding, stay in their body, and it's not necessary to keep doing it. I do, but some people believe that it can cause other problems. So what you can do is they can pull the blood from your dog, and they can test to see if the immunities have built up in the blood that you wouldn't need to give certain shots to. Now, that negates rabies. You always have to give rabies shots to it. And sometimes I give rabies shots. If you run into wild animals, your dogs have contact with them, they sometimes suggest a booster shot. Raccoon or other animals that are typically known for carrying rabies, you would, depending on where you're at and what your veterinarian feels, and sometimes if it's a wild animal and the DNR knows about it, they might force you to get another rabies shot. So you never know, but of course rabies is very, very important. But the other vaccinations, you can definitely check in the blood, and you can find out more of that from your veterinarian. It's pretty interesting, actually. You can see us here, we're free ranging. Actually, one of the dogs is wearing a collar, and in case you didn't know it, I'm a technology geek, buff, whatever you want to call it. I'm very interested in it, and that's how I'm able to do a lot of the stuff that I do and bring you everything I'm bringing you, because in a former lifetime I was a graphics artist. And hey, Sean Silvernail is here. Good to see you, Sean. Appreciate you joining the party here, the Wolf Driver party. Not as exciting as we usually are. We're not out in the field, but again, just trying to do a little explanation of what our spa day consisted of today, and a little bit more about what I do, and give everybody out there, a chance to ask me more about the Wolf Driver and whatever it may be, how I got involved here, or how I do what I do, or why I do it, etc. So this is a great forum to do it in. We're pretty relaxed and all is good. But as I was saying, I was going back and explaining how I treat the dogs monthly for, of course, flea and tick and heartworm, HeartGuard, etc. So just explaining some of the products I use, because people have asked questions, and the latest, and I'll just flash it again. I'm getting no sponsorship for this, but people have asked me Bravecto. I think it's awesome because it's a 3-month tablet. It's a chewable tablet. Dog takes once every 3 months, and it's flea and tick and all that good stuff. So as I was saying, I'm a little tech head sometimes. I can be real techie at times, and then real you wouldn't think I know a drop of technology. So I'm all over the place, but pretty diversified. So that keeps life exciting. But in any case, I do a lot of this technology stuff so I can do more with the dogs, and constantly thinking of new ideas, how to engage them. The Husky is one of my favorite breeds because it's active lifestyle, and I'm very, very active myself, and it's just got an endless energy drive. So it's challenging. It's challenging to most people, me as well. I enjoy trying to figure out what really entices them. Some dogs, you can take a ball or a frisbee, and you can throw it or toss it, and the dog gets it and it loves it, and you can build off of that. Huskies usually aren't so engaged. I mean, they'll do some of it. My one dog will play nicely with it, but you'd have to throw the ball or the frisbee about 20 billion times before you can really get the energy out of the Husky you need, or it needs to air out. So riding them on the bikes as I do, letting them run free in the fields as we do, and also chasing the flag. Chasing the flag sometimes can become, that's more of a sighthound sport, but because we're able to have a large enough field, and I was able to modify the equipment to last somewhat as long as the Husky can, it goes on for a while, and it's become a sport that we can use to work well with the Huskies. So I also wanted to touch on, I was explaining as natural remedies. Again, some people do pull the blood so they don't have to give as many shots to their dog. If you go to my website, again, AllDogZen, ALLDOGZEN, AllDogZen.com, there's natural remedies, which you might want to check out. Some are really, really good. Also, anytime you do anything like that, again, it's always a good idea to check with your veterinarian to see what they think and their opinion on certain ways of treating different possible diseases or for fleas or preventatives, whatever. I will tell you that certain things like garlic, brewer's yeast, whatever, people would feel they were good flea and tick repellents. And the food I use has a lot of garlic in it. You can smell it. And I contributed that for helping me with my flea and tick preventative as well. But I do use, as I showed you, I've always used a steady product on the market and had good success with it. So also there is on All Dogs End some relaxation. You might hear in the background radio stations on there that I created for dogs and for people to chill, to relax. Again, I'm really active with the dogs, but I cherish the downtime, and I want them to cherish the downtime. So I again use the technology that it's available, and my desire to find ways to get them to enjoy the relaxation so they can best benefit from rest, as well as a human, because the more we can recharge ourselves and keep a steady diet of exercise and relaxation and recovery time, the better we can perform, and economy of movement, enjoy life is to the maximum. So sometimes you'll hear me refer to some of the terms I do. I am a martial artist and have done it for longer than I've had the dog. So very well versed in that, and a lot of that foundation is reflected through my dog training, through my interaction with the dogs, and understanding the dogs in a lot of ways. So it's pretty cool how it goes hand in hand. It's very interesting. So some of the words I say or whatever will come from that martial arts foundation. But please, by all means, ask me any questions. Love to answer them. And I used to teach martial arts. There's a lot I know there. And again, that just helps me so well relate to what I do, at least the way I approach things. I did want to show you a couple other things. So just for fun and giggles, I am, you might know I have a pet product business where I actually don't sell any of the stuff I'm using here. So it's not any kind of direct interaction. I do have a small web store. I'm sorry, sometimes the video actor is acting up, but I apologize for that. But some of the equipment I use, some of the products I've gotten, I've actually found out about by being in the pet industry. Certain products are concepts, and because I'm considered a manufacturer in my field, we do like aquarium, reptile, small animal products. But I've gone to the major pet trade shows that are only open to the trade, and you'll run into manufacturers, etc. And because I was exposed to that, especially years ago, before the pet market was as big as it is, or at least the big box stores, so there was a lot of entrepreneurs out there like myself making small products, some really good products, and you didn't need to sell 10 million of them to make money, because you didn't have to be in these big box stores. There were a lot of smaller independent dealers throughout the United States and the world that you could deal with. So some of the products that came out, this is really funny, are dog perfumes and colognes. Healthy, they're fine for the dog. They're not anything that's toxic. They're made for the dog. But this is years ago, but I had to share these bottles. This is White Dalmatians. I believe it's like White Diamonds from Elizabeth Taylor, I believe. Very, very funny. And these fragrances, I don't know how they got away with it, all smell like the actual fragrance. I know people that have actually used these products on their own body because they smell just like the real deal, and they probably are the real deal without all the hype and markup of the real product. But here's another one. This was Bono Sports. So this was like a Polo. And you can see the labels look the same. I think this company might have got sued. I think they might be out of business now. But it was a great product. And if you could be here to smell it and you knew what the fragrance that was available in the market actually smelled like, you'd be laughing. This is Poochie, which is like Gucci. And I've used these products on the dogs before, especially depending on what the smells like or whatever. Especially after a groom, it can be very attractive if we're going to an environment where the dogs are going to be interacting with a lot of people. It's nice. It's a nice scent, nice smell, and again, it is dog friendly. I don't think you can buy these anymore, but last one I have here is Aramuts, like Aramis, I guess. So that's another funny one. All good stuff and interesting. Behind me is you'll know the way I work. I've explained some of it. I'm dyslexic, so I feel I can talk pretty well, but when it gets down to writing things and blogging or writing a journal or writing directions, whatever the case may be, I'm a little challenged to that because of the dyslexia. So what I found a great way to, well, first of all, I've gotten so many learnings from everything I've done from the martial arts, the dogs, and all these different experiences I'm doing and I've done, and I wanted to share them. I really wanted to document them in some way, but because of the limited capabilities on writing them, I knew that would be a problem. So I started thinking I've always loved music, started thinking in the terms of, what about a song? I just have a natural knack for picking up a song, memorizing it, whether it's rap music. I can understand the lyrics, believe it or not. I can almost follow them and just by hearing them. Or some of the rock songs are really challenging too because of the way they make the lyrics blending so well with the music. But I've got a crazy memory that I can like hear it, memorize it, and know it, and it just starts coming out. And that's how I train myself a lot of ways to get through school. I'd almost rhyme it with a song or listen to it and work it in a song, and that's how I'd memorize it for my test and to pass my courses. Well, I brought that into journaling and doing some of this stuff because I was so excited about everything we discover out on the dog trail and do with the dogs that I said, hey, how cool would it be to make songs, work it in reverse? I am dyslexic, so doing things backwards. So I said, hey, let's do this in reverse. Maybe I could write some music or write my thoughts and write what's happening here, document things that are going on, and we could turn that into a song. So that would be kind of a cool concept and idea. So I started doing that because I have no real music inclination except for just loving it and this ability to hear lyrics, memorize them, and etc. I said, I'm gonna do that, but I would need some help, and that's where I was able to, through networking and just like we're doing here, talking to people, I was able to come in contact with some expert professional musicians. In fact, some of them you may even recognize. I've built this library of hundreds of songs from rap music to rock and roll to soft pop and to all over the spectrum. And some of the musicians are pretty talented, and some of them have actually been out there on the big screen or big stage playing with Kenny Rogers. You might have seen some of the pictures of me throughout the websites with Kenny Rogers and some other big musicians, and some of those contacts have come because of the music people that I've been involved with to make the Wolf Tunes, the shirt I'm happen to be wearing tonight, to make that library happen and to get all this music to really bring my ideas and thoughts to life. So I really cherish that, and I didn't really, I never thought writing it or making this happen is going to be any kind of great hit, any kind of great song out there. And some of them are parodies too. I love parodies because the song means so much to me to begin with, and then to be able to put my own words to it. Parody is taken, so if you take a Beatles song like Let It Be, if you take that song and you put your own words to it, it becomes Let It Be, your personal version. And that is really appealing to me. So we've taken parodies and we've done some original music, but no idea that it would become famous, because it hasn't, and I never anticipated that. But just for me to really thoroughly enjoy, and because of the way my personality is, I can get tired of things rather quick. So I'm always changing stuff, as you'll notice. So by having a large library of music, I would be able to get all my thoughts in, keep going with new thoughts, as well as never get tired to listening to any of this music. So if you have a chance, wolftunes.com. And I was also doing songs, and I still would entertain that if anybody wants to write music, because I love to give back. Anyone wants to write a song about their dog or experience to do with their dog, that's where we're centralized. That's how I put this all together. I would talk to some of the professionals I work with and possibly be able to do a song. But I wanted to mention, it's really funny because one of the ladies that does some of the music for me, she's actually in Brit Floyd, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brit Floyd. I didn't know about him. I know Pink Floyd is, of course, but lo and behold, they're one of the premier Pink Floyd tribute bands in the world. And at the time she was doing the work, she's based out of Europe, and they were touring locally, or throughout Europe, I should say. She's based out of England. They were touring through Europe. I never thought they'd make it to the United States. Well, they made it here, and they've actually been here quite a few times now, from what I understand. And I was able to meet her at one of the shows, the Brit Floyd show. She got us tickets, my wife, myself, and some friends tickets to the show. Great show. I mean, I thought I was seeing Pink Floyd. It was phenomenal. And the funny thing, though, is before I knew that, I was actually flipping TV stations on my TV at home, and I came across Brit Floyd live at Red Rocks, and I'm like, well, I know Red Rocks is a wonderful amphitheater, wonderful venue that a lot of big groups perform. It's in Colorado. If you're not familiar with it, set into the mountain. It's majestic. And I'm flipping through Palladium. I think they're the big digital TV concert provider out my way, and Brit Floyd. And all of a sudden, Jackie is on there singing, and she's the one who did some of the songs for me. I was like blown away. So cool. So as I said, some of these songs, and there's other pretty talented musicians and semi-famous there, that is very you might recognize their voices or what they've done in some of the music. So music's a big part of this. And singing behind me now is Addie, and I believe Addie's been on America's Got Talent, and I don't know if she competed on the Simon Cowell show, the old show there, but unbelievable voice. And so if you get a chance, please check it out. I hope to do a live show. Actually, we're trying to put it together where some of the musicians can come to you, because this Facebook forum, I truly like it, being able to touch base with the audience and talk to everyone out here. We're thinking about doing some live broadcasts with the musicians actually playing some of the music. And I think you'll be blown away by what we've come up with and what it sounds like, etc. So once again, for those of you just joining, I am the Wolf Driver. You are live right now with me. In the background playing is a large library of all the videos I've put together from me running the dogs and all over the East Coast of the United States, whether they're off leash, we run on a bike, we do something called lure coursing, we go to farms, we interact with farm animals, we've gone through Washington, D.C., we've raced horses on a horse track. I mean, we've done almost everything you could think of. And in addition to that, as I was just saying, you'll see some music being played if we had the audio for that. Those are all Wolf Driver songs that I've written, every one of them. And some of them are parodies, so they may sound familiar. You might hear Led Zeppelin with Wolf Driver tunes to it. Now, some people have told me that, hey, you're putting your Wolf Driver lyrics to it. It's never going to be the same. It's not Robert Plant, Jimmy Page. But, you know, hey, we're having fun here. So, and that's what this whole experience is about, enjoying life and really making the best possible bond with your dog or dogs in general. So I hope you're getting something out of this. And I'd love to see some questions out there. It's a great time to ask them. Usually when we're in the field and we're doing a live broadcast, because I've done quite a few now, it's sometimes a little challenging to take the questions because I'm driving, wolf driving, I'm driving the ATV that the dogs are following, or I'm following them, or I'm driving the bike. I usually have a co-pilot with me when I'm driving the bike, but again, the way Facebook is set up, it's a little challenging for him to see the screen to know what people are asking. So when I'm here in this forum, I can answer the questions and I can explain to you what's going on and hopefully get you more involved and understand the process. This is, I'm kind of a little unusual, in case you didn't know that by now. So everything I do has a certain skew to it. I mean, it's all dog related in some way, everything I'm doing here on Wolf Driver. But as I said, my roots are a little deeper. They go into the martial arts, and got a lot of my foundation there. I used to teach it, trained with it for many, many years, and I'm also a technology buff, where I was a graphics artist and have done major technological feats, for lack of a better term. And I love merging all this together, especially related to the dogs, because the dogs, to me, are very close ancestors, especially the husky, to the wolves. And I love wolves. I know a lot of people love them, but you really, when you get into some of these areas where the dogs, especially where we're running free, you're like on a safari. It feels like, you've got a wild wolf pack, and they're out there, and you never know. You can come into contact with anything at any given time. I mean, from crazy stuff like we've gotten hot air balloons just show up right over where we're free ranging because we're at these huge farms, and you're like, what is this? And it actually makes for a picturesque background to get pictures with the dogs and where we're at, especially when we go down to the Shenandoah. We're there quite frequently. We're about 2 hours from our home base, and there's a farm we run down there. But you never know, and of course from other wild animals showing up to livestock to pretty much anything happening. So that's why I'm trying to, I've made so many videos, because at the time it was very hard. We were able to technologically pull together some live broadcasts, but they were fairly limited and very challenging to do. You might have caught us on Ustream years ago, and did a few periscopes. But with the invention or the addition of Facebook, adding this way to stream live, that's where most of the audiences that I'm dealing with, and because it's pretty painless, it's not as cumbersome as some of the other products we've done, it's relatively easy, and I'm able to do it and bring to everybody this some of this wild stuff we are doing. I'd love to hear from you. Anything you want to know about me, this is the perfect setting to do it, or anything you want to know about any of the dogs. I do have, in case you're just joining us or don't know for some reason, I have 4 huskies, and you're seeing them on the screen now, at least in this video. 3 of them are white, and the 3 white ones are Chase and Jag. They're 6 years old. And then Princess, she's the only female of all the dogs, of all the huskies I have, and she's 12 years old. So that's their age, and I've had Princess since she was 4, and I've had Chase and Jag since they were about 4 months. Princess was 4 years, the Chase and Jag were 4 months. And then there's Zorro, who's the more traditional looking husky. He's the darker one with the mask, and he's got about 40% Malamute in him. He is about 6 years old as well, little 5.5. Getting technical here. He's about 6 months younger than the other boys. And I've had huskies before these as well, white huskies. He's my only traditional or non-white husky I've had. That white look is very exotic. I equate it to like a white Siberian tiger. In fact, when I got first involved in huskies, I was really into that. I didn't even know that they existed in the white color, and I came across them in a magazine, and I went out searching because there was no internet then, because I was really interested to find out more about the breed. I've always loved huskies, but to find out about the white, which usually means it doesn't have much pigment. So traditionally you'll see like pink noses and lighter colored exposed skin, like their pads and maybe their gums and everything, just a little unusual looking, but with the eyes, color combination is pretty cool. Also, these huskies are woolies. They're long-haired, which I explained, are a little an anomaly in the wild. It's a little bit of a hindrance, but because obviously they're domesticated, they're house dogs. All dogs are today, unless you're talking Australia, the dingo, whatever, or stray dogs, of course. But so the long hair is not as much of a challenge as it would be in the real wild conditions, especially the Arctic, where it could be truly cumbersome for them. My other huskies were short hair. So that was a little easier, the coats to maintain, and you didn't have to worry so much. Sometimes I will get into a predicament where it's snowing, we're running in the snow because snow squall, some hail or something sometimes comes out of anywhere when you're in the winter months, of course, and you got to worry sometimes catching on to that long hair and freezing up and creating essentially an ice block, a problem for the dog. So those would be the only time where we limit the activities then, as you can understand. And if it happens while we're out running, we'll just make accommodations, get the dog back into the truck where it can warm up and melt some of that if that would happen, which it has. No problems, but because I'm knowledgeable, I know how to avoid the problems and understand it. And again, that's one of the things I want to bring to everybody out there. So love to hear you chime in. So we also have a Chinese crested. We unfortunately lost our first Chinese crested back in November, around Thanksgiving time. It's terrible. She was about 9.5, and just terrible. She had gotten sick, and unfortunately, she crossed Rainbow Bridge then, and we have a puppy Chinese crested. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Chinese crested, but it's a very unusual looking dog, for lack of a better term there. It's been voted, I think, America's ugliest dog. They're so ugly, they're cute. I absolutely love them. Get a chance, look them up on Facebook or YouTube, anywhere on the internet. You'll find they're really, there's a couple different strains or variations of them, if you will, like the husky, different colors with the Chinese crested. It's a hairy hairless, which means it has some hair, usually on its paws and neck and head, and sometimes down its back a little bit, and on its tail. That's a hairy hairless. But the rest of the body is very light. Pretty much most people shave them because they're hairless dogs. Then there's a full hairless where there's just no hair on it, and then there's the powder puff, which is full hair. It looks like a regular dog. But these dogs are, at least the one we had, she was about 7 pounds, I think. Gigi. Gigi's our latest family member, and I think she'll be a little bigger, maybe 9 pounds, but they're small. But I had Lulu, who I talked about across Rainbow Bridge. I had her involved in some of the activities we do. She chased the flag, the lure coursing, just a natural. I mean, that's prey instinct. That's a dog's instinct. Almost all dogs are hunters in some ways, so they go for prey, and that's why they do what they do with a lot of the toys they interact with. So she chased the flag, took to it. It was just natural. Got her riding got her running with the bike, the more traditional bike, the two-wheel version that stands up and down, not the big ones that I have. And she did well on that. I have a special attachment for her because she's so small. It just held her in one place tight. It wouldn't give her enough variance to get even close to the wheels, because that would be devastating for her. The big dogs, they realize to stay away, and they're big enough. You can see them getting close to the wheels. It's not going to hurt them if they hit the wheel, but with the little dog, it would be detrimental. So have a special attachment, again, merging that technology and fabrication, being able to come up with an attachment that's safe to run her, and I'm going to do it with Gigi when she gets to the proper age to do it. And also, I never took her out free ranging. Now she's going with us in the ATV. She rides with me, and that's because there's large birds. I mean, you're talking the size of relatively a rabbit, which large birds of prey in our area hunt rabbits. So they've been known to get smaller dogs. There's stories out there. And just a quick story I'll tell you, where we do our amazing chase, our lure coursing. The flag we run, I didn't know this, they actually use it, if you can imagine. It's a flag that goes through pulleys on a string, and they use it to rehabilitate birds of prey. So I'm out there, I had no idea about this because I'm just into the dogs right now. I'm into all animals, but I'm knowledgeable about dogs. So running my dogs on the course, and all of a sudden I was with somebody. He's like, hey, because I had my camera in my hand, and of course I didn't have it faced the right way. It was a hawk, red-tailed hawk, came down to the string and started pulling the flag, and it came down between Princess and Zorro. And it wasn't freaked by the dogs at all. In fact, they didn't even care about it. They're just going for the flag. And this bird actually stayed on the flag, pecking at it and pulling it. He was pulling the string up from the course, and we were like, whoa, and I'm trying to get my camera in position. Of course, I was just in awe because this is a beautiful bird, and no small dogs were with us, but that told me I thought that free ranging, if I did, because I can teach any dog to free range. It's just because she's smaller in size, it wouldn't be any challenge. But I thought the larger dogs being with us would help protect her against a bird of prey coming after her, and right there I learned it wouldn't. So that's I wouldn't take her free ranging with us. That's why. Now there are things we can do, like do an amazing chase. Even then, we're exposed to possibly the elements. So I am very, very careful when they come up and do that with me. With a bike, she's only a foot or two from me, and chances are a bird's not going to come down on a street like we're doing it, etc. But you do always have to be careful. And my motto is expect the unexpected. So when you don't think something can happen, it can happen, and it probably will, almost like Murphy's Law. So that's why you'll see me, I wear my orange vest all the time when I'm doing my fur wheeling, when I'm on the bike with the dogs, because that's an immediate leash. I've always got a leash with me, but that's got 4 leashes built into the vest. The vest is a people harness, if you will. So I can put the dogs on there under any predicament, any circumstance we get into, and I can take them wherever they need to go, off the field, etc., to get them to safety if need be, if the bike broke down or whatever. Out in the field, when I'm on the ATV, I've got all kinds of equipment with me. We run into stray dogs. I've got a leash I can put around a dog, put them in the ATV with me, so it won't commingle with the dogs and have an incident there, or just be able to put them on a tie out till I can go back to where the farmer is and try to see where its home is, whatever. So those situations have occurred with me while we've been doing different activities, and I always have appropriate means. But even today, there's still something that can come up. So the best you can do is anticipate pretty much the worst, so you're prepared for it. Especially, again, I'm out there in the field doing some pretty wild activities and chartering some waters that haven't been driven so much or navigated before, and coming up with ways of doing that, especially some of this equipment. I don't know if you realize, like when we're on the bike, it's battery driven, so it's electric, and these are state-of-the-art batteries. I've been doing this before they had state-of-the-art batteries, but the lithium, there's a couple different lithium, there's a few different from what I understand, lithium chemical compositions that are really incredible. I mean, they're using them on the airlines. Boeing was having all the problems with them, and they could be, especially in the beginning. I was there in the beginning. I was probably one of the first few doing what I'm doing with the bikes, using some of these lithium batteries, and it was truly groundbreaking technology and happening. So you can imagine we're riding 10 or 20 miles on batteries about this big, and now today they're getting even smaller. This is some of these batteries I have are 5 years old. So the technology is truly remarkable. And again, some of the stuff I'm using wasn't designed to do exactly what I'm doing, but we've custom modified it or fabricated it in some way that enables us to do it. But even then, I'm working a lot with technology experts, mechanics, and fabricators to try to better my rig all the time and better the situation we're in all the time. So it's pretty interesting. So I think if you go to WoofTech, WOOFTEK.com, I haven't updated it to some of the newer stuff we've been doing, but it's got some pretty good stuff, and it's explained in layman terms so people can grasp it even without understanding the technology. And even the photo equipment I use, some of it, you'll see this picture behind me now, the video, that's actually shot from a 360, which is a new kind of camera. A few manufacturers are making them, and what they do is kind of weird looking. It looks like a dome, if you will, or the size of a GoPro. And you can get this view on the camera, which is a little unusual because it's so large and narrow. But then the through software, the video can be unfolded, and you can even create virtual reality videos, which some of mine are. So you can, and then so you can see all over. But then I'm gonna blow your mind again. You might not have even thought of this because I didn't. So 360 is on a plane, if you will. So it's right here. But 360 is not up and down unless you something called spherical 360. A little bit of a physics class here. And spherical 360 is on a plane and it's up and down. So it's vertical and horizontal. And what that'll give you is pretty much the same look. I mean, our human eye, you're not going to take in the whole 360 view at one time like you can on the camera. And with the technology the way it is, using an iPad or a Droid or an iPhone or pretty much any tablet or newer phone device that is a smartphone, you'll be able to take the video and drag it around. You might have done this on some of my videos. There's only a few people doing this. And drag it around and see exactly what was in that view that day we were out there. It's truly remarkable. And we're talking these cameras are coming up in HD. So, I mean, you could zoom in on it too if you had the ability, if you're on a computer and you can zoom in on the screen and really, I mean, become intimate with the situation. It's pretty impressive. So that's Spherical 360, and there's a couple manufacturers doing it. I'm using a product now by Kodak, and I was using their old product, which you weren't really able to do Spherical 360, and it was a lower resolution. So for 360 work, it wasn't as interesting, but it was, for me, a nice wide angle lens or view. With the addition now, they just come out with 4K. It's not true 4K, but it's close enough to give you a higher resolution. So now you can actually have Spherical 360 where you can see everything. You might see a gentleman with me, that's Jim in the ATV. Depending on the situation, what I'm doing, where we're going, etc., I, believe it or not, got my own little pit crew. I call them the Wolf Driver Pit Crew. It's a crew or a group of people that I've come to know over the years that have contributed to what I call the Wolf Driver Project in some way, and a lot of them are still on board. Some of them have moved away or moved on to other places, and they're not as involved now, but it's pretty remarkable, and I've come in contact with some of the best people in their field, just like I was talking to musicians. Some of the best people that do what they do, some of the people that have helped me do the video here, and some of the people that go with me even today. So that's very interesting. You can go to another website. I've got like 30 websites because, again, to document everything I'm doing takes that many websites. Otherwise, it's still lost. But otherwise, it would be so lost, it would never get the light of day. You can go to the website, Rough Hour, and I think I have one there, The Cast, and it actually tells pretty much about most of the members, alumni, I call them, and active members. So you can get an idea of who's who, and almost all these people are dog lovers. I mean, who's not? But in some way, they're nature dog lovers, and that's probably the way I came to know them usually. So pretty interesting. But you'll see me driving an ATV here, and we were talking about electric vehicles. That ATV is electric as well. So that's pretty remarkable stuff. Kind of like electric cars that are out there today. I got this probably about 5-6 years ago, a lot of these electric ATVs that I travel in with the dogs. The reason I use them, I like to be green when possible, but also because there's no noise pollution, which means I can hear the dogs out in the field, and they can hear me. So I can give them commands, and I don't have to, hey, do this, do that. I can just kind of talk like we're talking here. Sometimes just to get that vocal effect to be in control, I have to exercise my voice a little louder, but I don't have to speak over the noise of a traditional gas-powered motor. Plus, we like to stop. You know, the dogs can stop right in front of me in a heartbeat, right when we're on the ATV. So they just drop and roll, and I can stop. I don't have to turn the motor off, and I can, what essentially would be a gas motor, let it idle. Just leave it on and get out, take pictures, walk with the dogs, come back to it. There's no I'm not low on gas. It's there's no fumes I was smelling, and I wasn't chasing any other wildlife away, so we might get to experience a cool view. So these electric ATVs are wonderful for what we do, as well as the weight of them. They're very heavy because they don't have lithium batteries. They could probably be modified. In fact, they can be. We've looked it up, but it would be cost prohibitive for me at this point. But they have traditional car batteries, lead acid, and these batteries are very heavy. You might know a car battery is pretty heavy. So that ATV weighs a lot. So versus a gas-powered one, this has more traction in most cases and can get through more situations because I got so much weight. It gives me traction and works out really nice. So you occasionally, or whenever we're free ranging, depending on the view, how we're doing it, you may or may not be able to see the ATV, but in that view you can see the long mirror. And that long mirror, when I'm broadcasting, I'm always looking at my mirror to see where the dogs are behind me and of course where they're at in front of me. And I have to look side to side sometimes because they'll be on the side as well. But knowing where they're all at, I use the GPS, the Garmin GPS controller, which also maps out where the dogs are, how many yards they are approximately from me. So depending on the lay of the land and depending on the season, as the crops grow in the field like corn, soybeans, etc., the dogs like to meander through there, and I like to let them explore everything. They're not going to hurt the crops. The farmers don't have a problem with it. It's just sometimes they might get out of sight on me, but with the GPS collar that I have on them, the Garmin product, I can see where they're at in the cornfield and say, oh yeah, he's 30, 40 yards away from me, or she is. No problem. I can talk to them. Plus, I can page them as well with the collar. Just hit the button and it gives a tone, if you will, like someone would have a pager on, beep, 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 something like that. And there's different tone patterns, so you could train them to drop where they're at and wait for you, or you could train them to come back to you, or you could train them to do something else with the tone. My most important thing, I'm not training them to do unnecessary stuff that we won't be using in the field, depending on what you're doing with dogs. So what I'll do is just train them to come back to me when they hear the tone, or at least see me. Once they see me, they're okay. But I have a few different commands I use. But again, my style of training, I don't get too technical here with a lot of commands because they're not necessary for what we do. So just a few basic commands, which makes it all the more attractive to everyone else. I've been, before I was a dog trainer myself, I've been through many dog trainers, and I've learned a lot of what to do and not to do. And the more you try to achieve with commands and other ways of talking to your dog that's not necessary, the more air you're going to fill with useless training and taking up time. And every command that your dog knows, you should practice it regularly. And to do unnecessary commands is just a waste of time. So I'm very simplistic in that way. I'm very basic, and that makes it very attractive to other people because they can get involved in doing a lot of these sports, even with huskies, pretty easily. A lot of people ask me a lot, well, how do you get your dog to not pull on the leash? And that's a challenging question. Now, I don't walk my dogs a lot on leash because I'm fortunate. Some places I have to if I go to the veterinarian's office, whatever. But some of this instinctual stuff, the instinctual traits, we don't necessarily want to take out of them, but we want to let them work it in a way so when they pull, they want to pull. But if you give them the pulling they want, you let them exercise their instinct, when they're on a leash, they're not going to be as apt to do it because they've already got to engage that. And when the collar's on them, they know, hey, I'm in a collar, I pulled, I've got that out of my system. That Sorrow, by the way, is I love that video. So the collar's telling them that's not the time to pull. When they're in the harness and they feel the harness pressure on their shoulders and through their body, that's the time they know to pull. So that's how we work on training them, to let them know the difference between the collar and the harness. And again, letting them sow their wild oats through these different instinctual training through that I do takes the edge off of them to want to engage it when here and there. For instance, let me give you another example. With huskies, everyone recommends, I believe it's like a 9-foot fence because they're jumpers and they're very independent again, one of the closest breeds to the wolf. But you wouldn't believe it. I've got a 5-foot fence outside of my house, and they've never gone out of it. So, and the reason being is because they sow their wild oats almost every day. So there's like no need. We're out. It's like they know what it's like to be out in the wild, and they're just done with it. They don't have to do it. So that's what I'm talking about, letting them get their instinctual side, exercise their instincts, and engage it as they would in the wild, and then it won't be so appealing to them to want to do it in situations where you don't want them to, where their behavior is necessary to be contained for some reason, in a yard, whatever. You can see the dogs there, video's a little jumpy, but that's the 3 males, and typically they'll wrestle together. Princess doesn't so much get involved with the wrestling. It's usually the boys because of their age and their closeness. They were raised right with each other, so they're more likely to get into it. She'll join in when we're out in the field. Usually when we're home, she doesn't care to as much. She'll play a little bit, she'll be done. The boys, they're the ones that just want to carry on with this kind of roughhousing when we're home in a very controlled manner. It looks scary to people, but you got to keep it in check, but it's harmless and it's good socialization. And what I mean by keeping it in check, you need to let them know that you're there and you're lurking somewhere, so they know their authority is in the house. Again, I'm the Wolf Driver, and I'm here to take your questions. We are live, and I'm going to try to stay in the air. We've been on for an hour now. I hope to stay on for another 30 minutes or so. That's FaceTime. We'll time this out then. I'm sorry, Facebook. We could start the stream back up, but I think I'll cover most of the points I set out to today. Basically, I was having this little conversation with everybody because it's a quiet time in the evening. The dogs were groomed today. I call it a spa day. The groomer comes to the house. She cleans each dog individually. She's got a built-in bathtub and all the built-in equipment to do it, dryers, etc. Usually takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a dog, so it is an all-day event. We get our little Chinese crested. She gets in there too. Their nails get done. The ears get cleaned. Pretty much everything on a groom, and the light massage and all the bells and whistles. It is a spa day. So that was our event or our adventure for the day. That's what we've done, and dogs are pretty tired right now. I like this. I don't know if you're catching this on the camera. They got Chase on the ground, and that's Jag and Zara on them. By the way, all these videos are on my YouTube channel and throughout my websites. The event for tomorrow, we're expecting some rain, and right now, the big truck, when we take so there's 2 dog vehicles basically I travel in. One, I don't know if you're familiar with it, I call it the Jumbo Jet truck. It's actually a custom-built Ford Excursion. So most cars, as you know, or trucks have 4 doors or 2 doors. This truck we built almost like a limousine to have 6 doors. And my meaning behind that was to give me more rows of seating so I could get more dogs in comfortably and not have to worry about them getting intertangled with each other when we ride. I can crate them, which is a great idea when you have a lot of dogs, to crate them as well in the truck. But with the 6-door and 4 dogs, I wasn't going to have to crate them. So it had some appeal to me. Plus, on the truck, because it is so long, we're able to put a roof deck on there. The roof deck gives me the ability to haul the long bikes that you see me ride. And traditionally, to haul those bikes without that long roof deck, using a traditional truck, I would need a trailer. And a trailer is just one more thing to break, to be more careful driving, etc. So the large truck had a lot of appeal to me, able to get all the dogs in there without crating them. Crating them's fine, don't get me wrong, but it was able to do it the way I wanted to do it, and to able to take all my gear in the back as well as have the roof deck on top. And the roof deck does have an electric winch on it to help bring the bike up to the top of the vehicle. So it's pretty impressive. The truck sits high, so we can go through. Sometimes some of the trails we go to, I don't know, I'm sure maybe you've seen some of the videos, are a little back there, and you've got to go through some backwoods to get to them and put the vehicle in four-wheel drive to actually access the trail. We've gone to some of those before, which is pretty hectic to say the least, but pretty adventurous and fun. So that truck, right now, the air conditioner is getting fixed. It's because it's so long. We've had problems with the lines. We're getting it fixed and ready for the warmer temperatures. So don't know if we're going to have access to it to do along one of our adventures that we use the bikes for. I'm waiting on a call to see how that's going. I do have the dog bus you might have seen, which is a Ford Transit. That's my economy ride. So great on gas mileage, customized it for the dogs with crate dividers. So they're essentially in crates there, but they're on the seats and in the back, which is easy. Plus it's low to the ground, which makes it, especially as the dogs get older, you want to take that into consideration. Now there's ways around it with the tall truck. I put electric steps on, so they're RV steps. They come out when you open the door, and the dog can climb up there. Also, you can use a body harness on the dog to kind of hoist it up. As my dogs have aged in the past, I've done that to help them get in. You can see the van right there I use. So that van has some additional fans in it and additional cooling measures for the dogs. And because of its small size, I'm able to get to places that I couldn't take the big truck to. But that one we don't use so much for the bikes because they're harder to carry. It's got a hitch, but it doesn't have the roof system that I was explaining on the bigger truck. So we've also have a couple bikes that are getting some normal maintenance. We run them all year long, as you can imagine, and we're trying to do more of these live broadcasts. We hope to come to you, so we're going to be bringing more people with us, more of the Wolf Driver Pit crew, and so we've got to get more of the bikes ready. All the bikes we always bring have a contingency built on them that we can ride the dogs at any given time, because that's the biggest challenge. You could be out in a trail. If you lose a bike, and we're 4 or 5 miles away from civilization, I'm walking that with the dogs either on the vest that I told you about that I wear or running free. Running free is okay, but the problem is I don't know who I'm going to run into on the trail, so I don't necessarily like that unless I've been in predicaments where I've had to do that. Again, they're under total control, but I don't know always what's ahead of me, and that's uncharted territories. We're a little stressed because the bike broke down, so what I do is, to avoid that, is have the extra bikes. So the bikes are always there, have the capabilities, of riding the dogs. The dogs attaching to them. So bike breaks down, and we've had this happen many a times. Bike breaks down, I switch them. Anyone that's with me can walk 5 miles, or whatever the distance may be, or I can get the dogs back and come back and pick them up. But the dogs are always our number one concern. And we are getting more vehicles ready so we can bring more people. So more of the bikes are going to be operable. Sometimes they'll go down for small reasons, and we're not always able to get to them all. Because believe it or not, if you listen to all I'm telling you and you watch my videos and stuff, we're constantly, this is a full-time job, running the dogs. So there's not always time to fix all this equipment, and there's limited people that can do it. It's only the people that are working with me, because it's so specialized and sophisticated, and the people that have built a lot of this equipment are in Utah, and Utah is about probably 2,500 miles from where I'm at, so that's not going to happen there. There's not many other people in the area that can deal with this, except for people who've been trained on it, like Chris, who works with me, part of the Wolf Driver Pit crew. Bikes will be ready. We're going to be doing some paranormal hunting, ghost hunting we call it, but actually I go out on the trails at night, and you never know what you're going to run into through some of the sophisticated equipment I have, some thermal imaging capabilities, so we can see nocturnal wildlife, any spirits that may exist, whatever. We're going to, remember, a lot of these areas are from 1700s, 1800s. They're pretty important in American history, whether it was when we were fighting the British, the Americans were fighting the British to settle the country, or it's the Civil War. So you never know what's lurking out there, and there's a lot of history there and a lot to be discovered. I mean, you'd be surprised by some of the stuff we run into out there, and it's like nobody's been back there before. It's really incredible. So many areas that are uncharted, and that's what makes the adventure really interesting. So we hope to, the night running is one of my favorite things I do, and I know people are like, well, why are you going at night? First of all, it gives us a lot more season because dogs, as you know, they're not good, they're not efficient at emitting heat, so they can't cool as well. Working them in the warmer weather is very hazardous and not a good situation unless you take proper precautions. And I'm not telling anyone to do this. I've come up with some pretty remarkable systems, from a cooling system that actually sprays the dogs down as we run with a real fine mist, so their fur gets lightly misted, and then it evaporates and almost acts like a sweat to help cool them. Still not foolproof, not the best thing, but a way of cooling them to let them get their exercise in. But you still have to be safe. I mean, I've got all kinds. I've put heart monitors on my dogs, like they use on horses and people. I've done all kinds of stuff. But running in the cool part of the night in the warmer months is a good alternative, because obviously the sun's not out to make the ground that much warmer and to beat down on the dogs or us as we're going to make them any hotter. And it gives us, typically it's cooler at night, so it gives us that much more year-round. We can run the dogs. We're on the bike trail. Now, again, when I say run them, they're not so much working where they're pulling, because on the bike design I have, they can just run or even walk. A lot of times we're moving at a walking pace, or we're on a level trail, so you just get the bike moving, which we do. We pedal or we use the motor, and then the dogs are just walking or trotting with it. Going at night is truly remarkable. The first times I used to go at night with Czar and Hudson, my original family members, original Huskies, I didn't have any of the sophisticated equipment I have now, and the technology wasn't there. But you can imagine, and I was by myself a lot then, so I'd be in the dog cart, a different kind of dog cart. They'd be pulling me, and all of a sudden they pick up the pace, and you'd be like, whoa, what's going on? And I'm looking around, and there's not much visibility because you can't see at night. You can only see so far. And again, little headlights we were using, we didn't have this LED technology, so you were limited. Any big light would take up too much battery power, and of course I wasn't bringing a generator with me, so it's very limited in what I could see. Well, I was introduced to night vision goggles, what the military uses, and I was able to get a pair back then, going back 15 years ago, whatever the case may have been. Got on the trail with Czar and Hudson, and all of a sudden, I could see. And when they would pick up a pace, I'd look in front and I said, oh, there's a raccoon. That's why they're picking up the pace. Oh, there's a possum. That's why they're picking. So now I could see it. I'll never forget. I saw a bike rider way in the distance, and I would have never spotted until he was practically on me. Saw him way in the distance, and when he got near me, he said, how did you see me? And I showed him night vision goggles, buddy. So they were a miracle. And with the technology the way it is today, we also use LED powered lights, which you can get such a bright spectrum now from minimal battery power that we could go for 10 or 12 hours and light it up almost like a car's headlight would. So we can get plenty view of the trail. Carry the night vision goggles for me in case we got to look in the woods or look off the trail where it would be a little harder for us to move our lights, because the lights are mounted almost like a headlight on the car. We do wear headlights on our heads, but even then, those are not as powerful as the big light I'm talking about. So the night vision goggles will serve their purpose there. But this thermal imaging is really incredible, where it detects heat. Now, in the warmer months, it's because everything gathers heat, trees, so that'll show a temperature reading. People or other life, whether it's nocturnal life or whatever, other animals are not going to be as visible in this thermal imaging. It's a little hard to explain. I don't want to bore you with it. Some of the information is on my website. And what we're looking to do, though, is create kind of a paranormal exploration with the dogs, with the wolves, and using these different cameras I have, going to abandoned places. We've already done a few, and you don't know what you're going to run into. So we hope to bring that to you live. Again, some of these places are off the beaten path, so the cell signal is only so good. If I can't get the signal I'll tape it and broadcast it as soon as I come into signal range. Pretty cool stuff. So I hope to be doing some of that as soon as next week, and we hope to be doing some of these music broadcasts within the next week or so, and I hope to be having more of these conversations with you like I'm having here over the next couple weeks. Whenever time permits and conditions are right, I'll come to you live when I've got something to say or something to go over, and if we got questions building up, I would love to be able to address them in this forum too. So please, on any of my posts, ask them. I make note of that. I can't always respond because sometimes it takes a verbal explanation rather than typing it out, but at least I know where you're coming from, and I can hope to address it during the interview or the live broadcast here. And the weather here again is going to be in the high 50s. Good dog temperature weather for this time of year for them, on the cooler side for spring, but it might be rain. It might have some precipitation. So usually, you know, I'll only keep the dogs in so long. I've got other ways of working them here, such as a treadmill, the dog wheel we have. But after so long, we've been in long enough, I will go out in the rain, and we won't melt. We do it. I just got to put the proper rain gear on. For me, it's a little harder to do a broadcast or to video it, but I've done that as well. And the dogs are fine with getting wet. And in fact, sometimes I think they enjoy running in the rain, especially in the warmer times when you're getting a constant mist or a constant rain. We've been out there where we've gotten, you can't tell, we've gotten just rain drenched, like the monsoon, for lack of a better description. And we try to avoid that at all costs. But doing this stuff, you just don't know what you're going to come up with. Expect the unexpected. Again, that's why I travel with the support team. So if conditions persist where we just need to be picked up, we'll get picked up, even if that means riding on the trail or whatever. Under an emergency situation, we would do that, and we have. We've had to ride on the trail before, so we do what we can and we do what we need to. I hope you're enjoying the show. We've got another, looks like 14 minutes or so broadcasting to do this evening. Again, I am the Wolf Driver, and I call myself the Wolf Driver because, not just because, typically on a sled dog team, you have what they call a dog driver. The person, the musher, is the dog driver. And I'm not a professional musher, and I don't aspire to be one. I'm doing this recreationally, and I'm doing it a little differently with the way the dogs run, but I love it, and I envy mushers because they're out there doing what they love to do, and their interaction and dog family is awesome as well. So it's quite a way of life. I've done it before. It's up in Banff, Canada, on a team of, I believe it was 17 dogs, and I steered the team. Ran it with a musher, went to the Continental Divide in Canada. Pretty majestic, pretty awesome. That was I was inspired long before that, but that was definitely part of my journey and part of my inspiration. So I call myself the Wolf Driver, though, because more like I'm driving at a dog's instinctual side. I'm trying to get the dog to unleash its wild oats, its wildness. Let it explore. Let the dog explore to the nth degree and act like it would in the wild, but in a controlled environment. And that's like a yin and yang there, because you're taking two different things. I'm saying yes and no at the same time, but there's a balance there. Everything's got a balance, and if you can balance it out properly, they can coexist with each other, being wild and being under control. So almost like an oxymoron, but that's again from my martial arts foundation, and that's how I have designed this style of training. So it's pretty interesting. Anything you want to ask me about it, but by balancing it out, I get the best of all worlds, and it gives them everything they want, but it still keeps them domesticated, still keeps them down to earth, and understandably not wild and crazy, but wild and free. There is a difference there. So I'm driving at the dog's instinct, and I'm always trying to figure out, what's going to drive the dog in certain situations, and to keep them motivated, because you can take a dog out, like I said, you can take the husky out and play ball with it. And it's going to maybe play for a little bit, and then it's going to be done. But you didn't get its exercise out just because it's done. It got bored with it. It didn't burn any of his or her wick down. But you take the husky out and you run the mileage that you've conditioned him or her to run, then you're burning down his or her wick. You're appealing to that, and they want it to run because you motivated them in some way, whether it's through competitive nature or whether it's going for that prey instinct or whatever the case may be. You've motivated them. It's just like sometimes the dog doesn't want to run. Not that we. There I am driving the ATV through the mud. I think that's me. It is me. Through the water, through the stream. It was pretty crazy that day. But in any case, you want to get them to run because you want to let them sow their wild oats, let them get their exercise in. But you'll find on a trail, for instance, when we're with the dogs on the bike, fur wheeling, riding a trail, sometimes because of the terrain, because of the condition of the trail, what the condition is, when it's paved or it's got crushed stone, there's limited grass there, at some point the dog's going to get tired of that. So what you do is take them over to the shoulder where there's grass, and because the grass tends to hold the essence of other animals, the scents better, it motivates them. It appeals to their instinctual sides. Like, wait a minute, there was an animal here. I can smell it. They can know what's going on. I want to chase it. So you're challenging. You're saying, hey, you want to run here? And wow, the pace picks up. And knowing if a dog's tired or knowing if a dog's bored are two different perspectives that we need to be aware of at all times. But by appealing to the instinctual side and knowing all the ins and outs, and I believe the husky's one of the hardest dogs, again, because of their close relation to the wolf and their independent nature. That's why I have to keep changing how to appeal to him or her, to my huskies. But in any case, when you find that right balance, it's euphoric. It's perfect. And that's when you have instances like a 5-foot fence will contain them. They'll be calm under certain situations that normally you wouldn't see a husky calm, etc. So you'll get results that probably you didn't think were possible, those of you that know huskies. So this works with any breed. And of course, different breeds, some breeds aren't going to pull a cart, but they're going to do the ball thing. But you might need to throw the ball for 30 miles to get the proper energy out of it. I don't know, depending on the breed, whatever. So that's what we do and how we do it. And again, you see me riding in these wet, muddy conditions that, of course, the dogs love because the scents are all over that, the mud and everything. And I do that. I'm going to get all muddy too, but I do that for them. I mean, they're into it. That's their drive, their life. They love it. If it was a pristine condition, they wouldn't like it so much. I probably like it because it wouldn't be as as dirty. Yeah, but I enjoy the challenge with them too. People ask me, though, going back to the grooming, well, how do they stay so white? When you look at that place, you can see them now. If we honed in on that video and look, see them pretty muddy. And if you looked on their underside, you'd think the white dogs were dark dogs. But because of the constant grooms and the products the groomer uses on them, conditioners, etc., on the hair, that mud will dry up pretty quickly overnight. So when they get up in the morning, where they were laying is nothing but a pile of dry dirt. Just take the vacuum or the broom and put it in the pan or vacuum it up, and you're done. And the dog looks almost spotless. Now, and because of the tight coat, especially on a short hair husky, long hair huskies tend to get dirtier because of that long hair, as I was explaining. They become more porous. The shorter hair huskies will stay pretty clean, but the longer ones will absorb some of that dirt, and that's why it's even more important to have them groomed on a monthly basis. Not many questions tonight, so I varied on different subjects here, but covered a lot of ground. I hope everybody enjoyed this. We're coming down to our final 4 or 5 minutes here. I appreciate everyone for stopping by, and hopefully I touched on a topic that you were interested in. Don't know if everybody's husky versed here, how much they like huskies or don't, or just joining in to hear the conversation, or if you want to take something back to train your huskies with. But I'm always available in some forum, at least, where you can drop me a line somehow, whether through the website, the Facebook feed. I'm on Twitter, Vine, Instagram, all the major social media outlets, even Pinterest. And I can address questions in those forums. I'm trying to let them build up a little bit so I can come to you live and address them in person, because, again, explaining them in this setting is a lot more conducive to my way of explaining things versus writing it out. But I will take the time sometimes when things need to be addressed, and I will try to explain it. So they gave me the 5-minute warning. So it's been really great. I've enjoyed this. I love to talk about all this stuff and hopefully inspire others. One of the big things, and I'm not really here to promote my websites. I'm real proud of them. But I mentioned a lot of them. I'm going to mention one more. It's called Wolf Driver Inspired. And Wolf Driver Inspired pretty much documents most of the awesome scenery that we've had a chance to mingle with, whether it's the waterways or insects we've seen or mammals, whatever the case may be. It tells, we were able to track the history or the background on the different wildlife or areas we were at, and just put a little bit of put it down in a little synopsis on Wolf Driver Inspired, and bring the photos to everybody. So that's really a great website, one of my favorites, and it's a really good place, again, to learn about some of this incredible world we live in, and what you can possibly take in for free. I mean, a lot of these, fortunately in the United States, a lot of these parks and areas are free to go to, and you can explore them at your own free will. Bring your dog with you and have a good time. I want to show you what I found, and you might be able to find similar or even better, of course. But I'm sure it'll be fulfilling, especially if you're with a dog and able to key off of him or her. They pick up on a scent, and I'm like, well, what is there? And I watch them follow something up a tree. Was it a squirrel? Was it a raccoon, a possum, whatever? Is it a big bird? Now, you never know. And we actually, we saw a bear. I mean, the dogs reacted. I knew it was something special because they reacted in a way that I hadn't seen before. So I knew something big was going on, and they were all four keying off of each other. And that energy was pretty magnetic and awesome. I love to see it. That's, again, like a wolf pack in the wild, like a bunch of wild wolves. And we were able to know something special was there, and we took control of the situation. We saw a bear, and it was at a safe distance. You'll see some video on Wolf Driver Inspired about that encounter, and it was one of the most awesome things we've got to see out there on the trails. Depending on where you're at, that might be a somewhat regular occurrence for others, but around here is pretty cool. There's been some really other cool stuff. Again, that's wolfdriverinspired.com, and I've got a minute, looks like 2 minutes until we close shop here. So any questions you can get in before the 2-minute warning here. You can, again, I do have a website, billhellman.com. My name's Bill Hellman, besides Bill Wolf Driver Hellman. And it tells a little bit more about my martial arts background and a little bit more about me and about some of these thoughts I was explaining today or tonight with you, as well as links to all the Wolf Driver websites. And you'll see me hopefully out in the field. I probably won't do another live broadcast, depending on what happens with the Wolf Tunes broadcast and some other stuff. You might not see me on the air for a couple days. I'll be on Facebook and all throughout the social media platforms, but I might not be live. But you never know. Something cool happens, and I'll come right back at you. And I will make it known the best I can. And again, I'm based out of Baltimore, Maryland, and I am the Wolf Driver. So we're ticking down into the final minute here. I'm just going to stay with you just to make it a complete show, as complete as possible. And look for us if we don't do our bike tour. Now, if we do a bike tour, which the Wolf Driver on Tour, I will be to you. If it's tomorrow, I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be Friday or on the weekend, or maybe as late as early next week. That'll definitely broadcast as long as I have signal from, because those are just so spectacular, and they're more conducive when I'm out in the field doing free range, and it's pretty hard to do. But I do like to do it whenever I can. When I'm with someone, it makes it a lot easier. So I'm almost always with someone, as I said, on the bikes, fur-wheeling. That's 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 7. I'm the Wolf Driver. I'm signing off. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time real soon.